Вот он, коптер опять взлетел. Откуда взлетел?
Welcome to the New Scope channel. As the Ukraine-Russia war enters its third year, both sides have begun to cross new thresholds: military, psychological, and diplomatic. This long and grueling war has evolved beyond traditional frontline clashes, increasingly defined by deep technological innovation and intelligence operations. On June 1st, 2025, an event occurred that could change the trajectory of the war. Ukraine successfully carried out a large-scale drone strike it had been preparing for nearly a year and a half. This attack marked the first time Ukraine was able to strike deep into Russian territory with such precision and effectiveness. President Volodymyr Zelensky dubbed the operation Spiderweb, and it quickly proved to be more than just a military maneuver. It was a move that could reshape the entire balance of the war. This strike was the result of a preparation process marked by extraordinary secrecy and precision, rare in modern warfare. The operation was a joint effort between the Security Service of Ukraine, SBU, and the Ministry of Defense, supported by a network of technical universities and private sector initiatives across the country. Over an 18-month period, Ukrainian engineers worked on hundreds of FPV drone prototypes, tested and refined in field conditions. The drones were designed to be low-cost but highly effective. They were equipped with advanced GPS navigation, real-time video transmission, and remote command systems. But the most critical aspect of the operation was how to smuggle these drones into Russian territory. From the first year of the war, Ukrainian intelligence had been building sleeper cells and logistical support points inside Russia. Special containers, hidden in truck compartments, were covertly transported into the Russian interior. These containers were modified to both transport and, when needed, launch drones. They were strategically placed in locations more than 1,000 kilometers from Moscow and near key Russian air bases. These included Olenya, Belaya, Ivanovo, Diaghilevo, and Ukrainka, all major hubs for Russia's strategic bombers capable of carrying nuclear warheads. On the morning of June 1st, weather conditions over much of Russia were clear, with barely any wind. This timing was clearly no coincidence. The FPV drones took off silently in the early morning hours. Each drone was loaded with explosives and moved toward its designated target. Flying at low altitudes and taking advantage of trees and buildings for cover, they reached their targets undetected by radar. When the assault began, most Russian radar systems failed to detect the drones, delaying the response from air defenses. Out of the 117 drones launched by Ukraine, the majority reached their targets successfully. At Belaya Air Base, 4 Tu-95MS bombers and multiple fuel tankers were rendered inoperable. A large explosion at Diaghilevo destroyed one hangar and detonated an ammunition depot inside. At Ivanovo, not only parked aircraft but also the radar and command center suffered severe damage. At Olenya and Ukrainka, several Tu-22M3 supersonic bombers were either destroyed or heavily damaged. In total, over 40 strategic bombers were reported either destroyed or incapacitated, a loss equivalent to about 1/3 of Russia's strategic air fleet. The impact was not limited to physical destruction. This was also the first successful multi-point drone strike deep within Russian territory, causing a psychological shock. Until now, the majority of the war had been fought along Russia's borders or within Ukraine. But this operation brought the war to Russia's doorstep, metaphorically and literally. The Russian public responded with panic and anger. Videos of the strike spread rapidly across social media, prompting citizens to question how their military could have allowed such a massive vulnerability. Following the attack, Zelensky issued a statement. "Today, Ukraine achieved more than a military victory. We demonstrated our people's will, our engineers' brilliance, and our soldiers' courage. We wove a silent yet deadly plan like a spiderweb. And at last, we struck our target." His remarks were not just for internal morale, but also directed at Ukraine's Western allies. For months, many had hesitated to supply Ukraine with long-range strike capabilities. After this success, those countries began re-evaluating their positions. Russia condemned the attacks as acts of terrorism and threatened large-scale retaliation. However, the Russian Ministry of Defense appeared reluctant to disclose the full extent of the damage. This reluctance signalled that the attack had indeed triggered significant unease within the Russian leadership. President Putin made no public statement, fueling speculation that the Kremlin had been caught off guard. State media attempted to downplay the effects of the strike, but satellite images and independent reports made it clear that the damage could not be hidden. The timing of the operation was also notable. It occurred just days before a peace summit was scheduled to take place in Istanbul. This suggests that Ukraine aimed to strengthen its diplomatic position at the negotiating table. The attack demonstrated that Ukraine had matured not only in defensive capabilities, but also in offensive strategies. For the parties about to enter talks, the message was clear. Ukraine is no longer a passive actor in this war. Moreover, the operation highlighted the transformative power of drone technology in modern warfare. Drones, with their low cost and high damage potential, have disrupted traditional military doctrines. Even countries with massive defense budgets, like Russia, have proven vulnerable to small, fast, and intelligent strike systems. This indicates that future war strategies must become more flexible and better prepared for unexpected technological threats. Ukraine's spiderweb operation was not just a military triumph, it was the embodiment of patience, intelligence, and determination. This attack could mark a pivotal turning point in the war. Rebuilding Russia's losses will take time and considerable resources. On the morning of June 1st, 2025, Ukraine targeted 5 strategic air bases deep inside Russia in a large-scale drone attack dubbed Operation Spiderweb. The operation was carried out after 18 months of meticulous planning by the Security Service of Ukraine, SBU, and dealt a heavy blow to Russia's strategic bombing capabilities. As part of the operation, 117 explosive-laden FPV, first-person view, drones were directed at Russia's Olenya, Belaya, Ivanovo, Diaghilevo, and Ukrainka air bases. These bases are important hubs for Russia's strategic bombers. The drones were launched remotely from wooden cabins mounted on trucks that had been previously introduced to Russia. This method bypassed Russian security systems and carried out the attacks. As a result of the attacks, more than 40 aircraft were destroyed, including Russia's long-range nuclear-capable bombers, the Tu-95MS and Tu-22M3. These aircraft accounted for about 34% of Russia's strategic cruise missile carriers. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky described the operation's success as a historic victory and said it dealt a heavy blow to Russia's strategic bomber capabilities. The attacks exposed the weaknesses of Russia's air defense systems and demonstrated Ukraine's ability to conduct deep-dive operations. The attacks came just ahead of peace talks planned to be held in Istanbul, where Ukraine plans to put forward demands such as a ceasefire, prisoner exchanges, and the return of forcibly displaced children. Western allies lifted restrictions on Ukraine's use of long-range missiles due to Russia's reluctance to participate in the peace talks. This increased Ukraine's ability to strike targets deep inside Russia. Operation Spider's Web is considered a turning point in the history of modern warfare. It is stated that Ukraine dealt a serious blow to Russia's strategic air power with this operation and made a move that could change the course of the war. These developments may have important consequences for the course of the war and international diplomacy in the coming period.